And welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live here at Citizen Television. I told you the ladies were in the house. They were just chatting. And now they're here. Uasin Gishu Women Rep. Gladys, the boss lady, is in the house. And nominated Member of Parliament, Jennifer Shamalla. Ladies, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting us,
Let me
Jeff.
wish you happy Jamhuri Day week first before I forget later on.
Same to you.
All right? So, real good, let's get down to it. Jennifer, has the train left the station, the BBI train?
Yes.
Has it left the station? Is it over, done deal?
Has it left the station?
Yes.
Definitely. And it is a done deal.
Done.
Done.
But then, when we were here, you guys are still saying there's room for, you want to debate certain issues, you want to add certain things to it, and it's over. You can't redo this thing.
Constitutional making process is not something that you force down people's throats, because it does not belong to an individual. It belongs to the people of Kenya. And this is not the first time we are asking for this type of discussions. Our current constitution took 20 years. And it took lots of deliberations. It started from location level, where there were representatives of women, people with disabilities, young youth, and so on, at location level. And if today you go to the National Archives, you are going to find the actual audio of what people said at every location. And then the caucuses came to Bomas of Kenya. And after that, Kenyans came out with what they called contentious issues and non-contentious issues. And they continued to deliberate on them. On the non-contentious issues, they shelved them and said no one has a problem with this. And then they went on to continue to discuss the contentious issues, reduced them until they were a limited number, and then went out now, by the time people were forming the referendum committees and going out for voter education, what happened is that it was easy. There were few contentious issues that you could now sell to the people and say, this is not acceptable or that's acceptable. When you say the train has left the station, there's 70 plus amendments in the constitutional amendment. Many of them do not require to be at the referendum. So even the way we can help the public to understand this process is that we need to remove certain issues out of the bill and only leave those that are referendum issues. For example, the issue of boundaries. That is the job of IEBC, which is due already. So IEBC, under Article 89, should be delimiting boundaries now and reviewing boundaries. It is their task which they are required to do. And it can go on without the referendum, does not require a referendum.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're waiting to jump in.
I must address the issues that my dear friend Gladys has raised. First of all, constitutional making process has been a continuous process within the Republic of Kenya. We gained our independence in 1963. I think it was by 1967 we already had a constitutional amendment to change the system of government from a parliamentary to a purely presidential. So it is a continuous process. Secondly, the issues, it's not just it's actually a mixed it's going to be a referendum, but we're going to have a parliamentary where Parliament will have initiate certain amendments to the Constitution, and then you need the popular initiative in accordance with Article 255 of the Constitution of Kenya. To say that we need the grassroots, etc., that has happened. If you remember, the backdrop against this BBI initiative was March of 2018. If you also remember, as of 2017, we have had this cycle of violence. Let me go back to 2007, post-election violence, where we had, under the Kibaki administration, we were leaps and bounds, double digits economic growth. Yes, we get to 2017, the country grinds to a halt. We lost, in terms of monies, shillings, 50 billion in internal revenue collection, 150 billion from potential investors who wanted to invest in this country but got cold feet and took off. And it is this handshake that now started the process of this, where we are today, as in the train taking off tomorrow. So it has been a continuous process since 2018. We are now in 2020. That has been 2 years.
Okay, let me ask you this, boss. Look, it's no secret that you are supporting Deputy President William Ruto. It's no secret. So the question is, is your camp, are you going to oppose this referendum? You know, are you going to take a stand? Because now you guys are being accused of being watermelons.
No, we're not watermelons. And let's first, just so that I pick up from where Jennifer left. If you remember that when you say constitution-making process and that it's coming from the people, the way this was not the case in this one. The clamor for a constitutional amendment that happened in the past and came up to 2010 was actually from the people. There was protests, there was the Saba, there was this, and it came from the people. But this particular constitutional amendment, everyone knows, it started on the steps of Harambee House as a private initiative called the handshake of two people. And even then, they talked about 9 points that Kenyans didn't argue about. But no one warned us that they were actually going to turn a private initiative into a popular initiative and then ask for constitutional change. So they shake hands, they make 9 points, they create a task force financed by our taxes to go and round the country, then come back with a report, then suddenly metamorphosis into a constitutional amendment bill. So that bill, let's not lie to Kenyans, does not come from Kenyans. Now that we are discussing it and we are faced with it, then let Kenyans get an opportunity, because it did not come from us. It came from another quarters. And so because we realized that it was set that it must proceed, we have said, fine. So you want, and remember throughout the times I've talked about it, there was the BBI report. The first BBI that came out, I said, no, there's nothing wrong with this BBI report. It is the book of lamentations. It was something that was saying all the problems of Kenyans, which I didn't argue about. We then thought they were going to now give those challenges to the ministries to undertake its work. Because when you talk about inclusivity, cohesion, and so on, that is the job of the National Gender Commission, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. We've got the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. When you talk about inclusivity, remember where we came from as Kenya. There was a time when the president came from a certain ethnic group. Then they developed their areas to the exclusion of certain areas. You will remember very clearly when we used to talk about, when Turkana used to say, Turkana sio, Lord was sio, Kenya, because we'd never develop it. That problem of inclusivity was resolved by devolution. So all we need to do is strengthen devolution, because today resources goes to all 47 counties, no matter who is the president. So instead of, so if we want to do to promote inclusivity, then let's promote devolution, not rewrite the constitution.
What about the expanded executive that they talk about?
Exactly, but that's why I'm going back to what BBI proposes to address is a situation where the people of Kenya feel that the winner takes it. We can't no longer deal with a winner takes it all type of presidency. And my friend says here that let's promote devolution. If we were to if that were the case, then every one of the presidential candidates would then want to be the governor of this particular, whichever particular...
They should.
They should want to be the governors of whichever particular county they come from. That is not the case. Everyone, the people of Kenya, BBI is going to address the issues of a multi-ethnic democracy, because the reality is everybody, we vote along ethnic lines. That is a reality. Everyone wants their own person in office because we will benefit from the presidency, not from being a governor. And to say that this was a private initiative between two people is not true. First of all, these are political leaders. They represent millions of voters. The President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga. And you know what happened in 2017, 2018 with the Resist movement led by National Resistance Movement people. And it was this that had to be addressed, because it really, the issues were economic, bringing the country to a standstill. The issues were the fact that the winner take it all situation is not working for us. We must also understand that the clamor for the 2010 constitution came against the backdrop of the post election violence of 2007. If we remember that. And then we fast-tracked it, and we needed to. Because even in 2007, when the post-election violence broke out in this country, it did not stop just the economy of Kenya. It stopped the entire region of East Africa. You remember that they were not getting their oil in Uganda, in Rwanda, etc. So obviously, 2010 had 207 post-election violence. The 2010 constitution had not addressed these issues. You also recall that we were told in 2010 that actually 20% of our constitution is not good, but we can renegotiate later, okay? There were those issues. And to say that it is not coming from the people of Kenya, there was a task force appointed by the president. The members of that task force led by the Honorable Senator Yusuf Haji were appointed by the Jubilee side of government, His Excellency the President and the Deputy President, bringing their nominees and the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. So what did they do? They traversed the country. They didn't sit in a room, have a meeting amongst them, go through papers and history books and decide amongst ourselves what do we think are the issues. They actually spoke to the people of Kenya. So to say that it's not coming from the people it would not be it's not correct at all. It's a bottom-up approach, and that's what the BBI is all about. And
okay. Boss,
yes,
go ahead.
Yes. You remember when Okuru Okot developed a popular initiative? He reached out to like-minded people, and they collected signatures. They did not get state resources to collect the signatures. I did not see the constitutional amendment proposals were not available to us or any Kenyan at all until 3 days before BBI 2 at Bomas. That is when we saw it for the first time. So if you're saying that you want us to to give input, when was I supposed to give input? When you only gazetted it, that is when now it became available to us to be able to look at it. Had it been that the bill was published, was available, and then people go around the country collecting signatures. So what they did is developed the bill and then went to collect the signatures using chiefs, county commissioners, and so on. So all we are asking, because you brought the constitutional amendments very late, allow us to give our input. And that is why you found that in Bomas, the deputy president gave his input having read it 3 days before Bomas. And then the rest of us continued reading, and we have given our input. So surely the only fair thing you can do is allow us a chance to now this is the time we are interrogating the document. We had no opportunity before. Why didn't you give us the constitutional amendment bill in Bomas 1 when you first came to it? You were changing, they were making changes as late as KICC. I don't know if KICC is KICC 1, it's KICC 1, yeah. There's Bomas 1, Bomas 2, and KICC 1. So is it an unfair thing to say, allow me to give input? Even when a person goes to court, and Jennifer is a lawyer, when I bring a new application to the court, the first thing the court does is allow the other side a copy to review and to get a chance to respond to it.
You still haven't said whether you're yes, no, or on the fence.
I think that's and this is, I don't know why people want to lock people into a no or yes campaign. What we have said is that now that we have seen the bill, allow us to give our input and our proposals. And if you put those proposals and correct some of the things to a great extent that we are asking for, then we will end up with consensus and with a non-contentious referendum.
5.2 million signatures later, isn't that too late?
If I may, first of all, our own speaker...
When people were signing, had they read the document? Nobody has the document.
Okay, please, Gladys. On our own speaker of the National Assembly also presented his views to the BBI, to the task force, yes? Our own speaker of the National Assembly. Second of all, Gladys has said, even when you go to a court of law and you file an application, you're allowed to serve the defendant. Now, that presupposes that they are on the opposing side and they're the defendants, which is surprising to me because the president and the deputy president both belong to the Jubilee Party. The president and the deputy president both had their say in the task force members. So the feedback should have been coming from the nominees of the deputy president, and I don't know if she speaks or she's holding brief for the deputy president because my understanding is he is with us on this process, yes? But having said that, they were at all times aware, and you could have taken the proposals. To say that nobody was aware of this is slightly disingenuous because actually they traversed the country. And if you look at the BBI report, all the information, all the annexes of all the meetings, there were town hall meetings. These meetings were not held in secret.
Go on, boss.
Jeff, remember when the BBI task force was going around, it was not going around. They were going around to seek Kenyans' views on the 9 points. They were not going out at the beginning as a constitutional amendment forum. And I think the deputy president was on Citizen Live, where he clearly said, I was aware and I in fact picked the nominees. Yes? But he said it was supposed to be an inclusivity, peace-building process. He said it was clear that it was not supposed to end as a constitutional amendment. That was not on the table at all. That's what I'm saying. It took us by surprise. It was not supposed to be a process to go to constitutional amendment. It was not supposed to be a process that was going to challenge the election of Uhuru Kenyatta. It was not going to be a process of talking about power sharing. Those were the three things. And even something that the president always cleared. He has said himself many times, and you have the clips, where he has said, there is nothing called, we are not going to do anything called nusu mkate. But to tell me that that if you say that inclusivity is by creating 5 top positions, we know very well that Kenya has 42 ethnic groups. And we have probably another 3, Kenyans of Asian origin, Kenyans of English origin, and so on. So if you say that that the 5 top posts are going to cure inclusivity, that is a very simplistic way to do it. Because what are you going to do to the other 30 plus ethnic groups? Inclusivity is one. Give all counties resources. Equalization
Which is what
fund.
BBI is going to do. It increases it by 35%.
Right now, we are allowed to have minimum 15%.
Yes, but
nothing stops us without going to a constitutional referendum to increase it to 35%. Let me just finish this point so that I don't lose it. Inclusivity is when you say, it's not creating 5 top positions because it's not going to satisfy anybody. Inclusivity in many, and you've seen it even in Tanzania, if the president comes from mainland, the prime minister comes from the island. In other countries, they've even done better. That if then you look at positions like the head of the army, the attorney general, the inspector general of police. So you can, if you spread out in that way, the cabinet ministers, how are they appointed? The top positions in the country. That is how inclusivity comes, where every ethnic group in Kenya is in the face of Kenya. And the diversity is seen in all our appointments. So it is not in 5 top positions. Because are you telling me that it will only be the 5 big ethnic groups that will always be represented and the rest of Kenyans? What happens to the Rendile?
Why are you having this argument now, boss? Why are you having, isn't it too little, too late?
I don't think anything prohibits me as a Kenyan to be able to give my input at any one time. And like I said, Kenyans know this. We all saw the document 3 days before Bomas. Nobody in my village has a copy of the constitutional amendment. Nobody has published brief notes even to tell people. Even those who are told to sign their signatures. Chiefs were being given a target of 1,000, 2,000 signatures that you must collect. State resources were used to collect signatures. So it's a convoluted way of making the constitution process. But I think I would be an irresponsible leader, and history will judge me harshly if I don't at least raise my voice
without being in the know, as in the no camp.
I haven't reached the no. We haven't reached the issue of the referendum yet. Right now, we said to ourselves, if they could still incorporate. Remember, the task force finished its work in BBI 2. And then, so I don't know which task force was resuscitated to put in the input of some of the issues raised by the Deputy President, which was nice, but they didn't put all the input that we said. But we must continue to do that, because then we owe that to Kenyans, because Kenyans can't elect you to keep quiet. You must at least let people know your voice, and one day you'll tell people that I actually spoke about this. It is our right and our duty. Nobody is entitled to produce a document and tell me that because they use state resources to collect signatures, that they then must make me take it and that I must shut up. And the fact that as a member of parliament, I have an oversight role. My job is to criticize the government and exercise
I think that's
oversight.
the job of the opposition, not our job as Jubilee Party, and to keep the government in check.
Yes. The thing is, when we do
traditionally, I think
what do I do as a member
it's
of
not
parliament?
To criticize, it may be to critique, but not
Allow
to
me
criticize.
to just make my point. As a member of parliament, I sit on a committee. If I think there's something wrong with the COVID money, and the health committee summons KEMSA, summons the minister. When we think there is something wrong at the Ministry of Water, you summon the minister. The fact that I'm a Jubilee member has never stopped me from questioning the Jubilee cabinet secretaries. That is the task that I have been hired by the people to do. I was not put there to clap. The opposition obviously have a higher level in terms of, that's why traditionally they have shadow cabinets, cabinets to be able to oversight. But that doesn't mean it takes away from me and that I must just clap and rubber stamp every single thing that the state does.
But Jennifer, let's face it, there's been no opposition in the last 3 years. There's been no opposition. It's a handshake. Opposition died.
Yes,
there's no opposition. Everyone's on one side.
There is no opposition in this country as we speak.
There's none.
Yes. Really?
Who's the opposition?
No, I just wonder. I'm a bit perplexed. There is no. There is no opposition. No, you mean there is no one opposing the BBI initiative? There is no opposition as we speak in this country. But having said that, in times of, and this is really, really important for me to say, as a country, we can decide to go the way of the UK, which went, with Oliver Cromwell and slaughtering or killing a king. We can decide to go the way of the American Civil War, where the Confederates fought against the United States of America. We can decide to go the French Revolution way, where you had a revolution and you again guillotined a king and a queen, and then you have an emperor and who said, I am the revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte himself stood him and declares himself, the general, an emperor of France. And the rest is history. We can decide to take the very bloody way that has happened, and history is raft with examples of that. We tested it in 2007, we tested it in 2017, 2018. Or we can decide to seek consensus and speak. Because for us to sit here and pretend that actually there is no problem, and it's all very well to say that the reality is that an Asian in Kenya, this is not the days of the dawn of independence when we were filled with optimism, when we were nationalists, when you could have the types of Dagama Diopinto becoming the vice president of the Republic of this country. This is a different time. We can have a discussion on how it is that we became so polarized and so ethnicized, that a European, Leakey cannot win the Langata or the Kibra seat today as we speak. All right? Or an Asian, or at this point, the reality is that he will not be able to be elected member of parliament. You have the rare, these incredible cases in Nyanza and Meru, where you have Asian, Kenyans of Asian origin who have been elected. But the point is, and if it is this way, then I would say that we can always have another kind of constitutional referendum where we say we'll have an opportunity for the minorities of the minorities. But having said that, When you look at this country, you have these, when she says a Rendile can never be a president of the Republic of Kenya, the fact is the Rendile fall within the larger grouping of the pastoralists. And they are people, numbers, they have the numbers to be reckoned with. They consist of the Somalis, they consist of the Samburus, they consist of the Maasais, they consist of the Turkana. So they're huge numbers.
But what Boss was saying was this expanded executive.
Yes, that's why I want to ask the question, and she can answer me later.
How is there? We're changing. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. Let me tell you. Suppose we have the expanded executive, which is the prime minister, deputy prime ministers, and so on. Just tell me how that cures representation for all the ethnic groups. Are you telling me that those 5 groups will fit all those groupings you've talked about? Because you're saying an Asian and all would not be able to become. Are you going to put them on the seat? I can't understand how that works out. But also, I want to point out, because what you've said is really serious, that do we want to go the way of guillotining a queen and all? First of all, that is not comparing apple for apple. Really? Those examples you have given are those countries before they had a constitution and before when they had monarchies. So you can't compare our democracy with those monarchies. So let us find examples that are nearer home. Because the reason why there was the French Revolution is where the king said, I think the juris, c'est moi, I mean the law is me.
Et moi. The state is me.
Yeah, so that was not, those are not, those. So let's shelve those examples. The times of the Civil War in the US, that was the time when people didn't have representation at all. Things changed when they had the constitution. So let us compare a modern constitution for modern constitution. But you must remember, and also to say that 2 leaders can decide on behalf of Kenyans, you must remember that when a person is sworn to become the president of the Republic of Kenya, they swear to uphold, defend, and protect the constitution. The constitution says there is only 2 ways of changing our constitution: the popular initiative and the parliamentary initiative. And there is a format for following that. It doesn't mean because you're president, you can actually decide on our behalf. What you should do is defend the constitution. So let things happen in accordance with the constitution. It doesn't give you a blank check to disobey the constitution and do anything you want. And that is why today we are asking, as our right under the constitution, we are asking that we want to engage with the document. And Jennifer has mentioned the word consensus. And that is exactly, that's why we haven't gone to a no campaign. Mm-hmm. Because we want to build a consensus. The president, the deputy president, has been very clear. Of course, you want him to, I think people want to put in an awkward situation where he's running a campaign against his own president and his own boss. So, and that is why he's been wise and he isn't going that route. All he's saying, allow our views, his, other people's, and everyone else. The churches have given their views, the pastoralists have given their views, we have given our views, our people on the ground have given our views. So I think choosing the combative route is a route we have declined to do it. You might have read the statement that many of us, over 200 MPs, several senators, several members of the various county assemblies from across the country, we came up with a statement and said these are the issues that we would like addressed. And we are concerned.
And if they're not addressed, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, it's a question. What are you going to do? Tomorrow it moves to the IABC and then onwards from there. What are you going to do?
I always desist from speculating, giving speculative answers. We shall wait and see. They might accommodate our views, like the deputy president's views were accommodated in Bomas, or they might choose not to accommodate. At that time, when we see what is on the table, then we shall be able to make a decision at that stage. But at least the thing is make your voice heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
I just want to talk about, I'll leave King Charles and Napoleon and get closer back to home. Rwanda,
yes.
1994. Rwanda.
26 years ago.
1994. Yeah. Ghana, the overthrow by Jerry Rawlings and execution of a former head of state. Pakistan, the overthrow of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, Bhutto himself, Prime Minister Bhutto, by Zulfikar Ali, a general. So examples are raft of where you can have situations where it becomes so untenable. countries descend into genocide. It just happened in our neighborhood 26 years ago. So there are those examples. It's crucial that, and we have had the triggers. We had it in 2007. We have had it in 2017.
Okay, ladies, I want to take a break, come back. And it looks like the no campaign has a lead already. Makueni, Senate Governor, Kivutha Kibwana seems to be the lead of the no.
And that's okay. And it's
I think I like what Kivutha Kibwana is doing. I like what the Linda Katiba team is doing. I like what Jennifer and her team in supporting are doing, because that is the discourse that we want to have as Kenyans. Let's have a healthy discourse. That is what we have been talking about, so that we can build a consensus. That is happened. People used to spend more than 15 hours a day in Bomas when the caucuses were deliberating on reaching a consensus. Yeah. So I think it's unfair to say that because Gladys has raised certain points, she is a bad person and she is defying the president or defying Jubilee. No, I have a right to voice my concerns. Even in our own families, we have a right. I listen to my children. Sometimes I don't necessarily agree with them, but I hear them out.
Okay,
you know? So, and that is all we are asking. Hear us out. Let everybody speak up. There is also very important questions that have been brought up. The Nandi and the other county assemblies who have gone to court to ask serious questions for an advisory opinion. Kivutha Kibwana has done the same. So we are all entitled. Just the way that the proponents of BBI are entitled to push BBI, we are also entitled, but it can't be that it's their job and only them who are the almighties who can decide that this is the document and whether you like it or not. In fact, the way it was sold to Kenyans, I remember listening and they said that this is like dawa ya malaria, quinine. Well, it tastes bad, but you must swallow it. Then when you're told this is a snake that has come out and you have no choice, it just shows it's forced. You don't force people, you don't force a country. You must listen to the country.
All of a sudden you feel a little left out. Why is that part of Jubilee? Why do you were in it throughout. You were part of the discourse, you were part of the conversation. Why do you feel let's take a break, we'll come back and talk about that.
I'm still a member of Jubilee and I am and I don't feel left out at all.
You're talking in past tense, Jeff.
Let's take a break.
And I'm still a part of Jubilee.
Okay, so we have a referendum next year. We know that, right? Can we talk about that when you come back?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Wow. It's getting hot out here.
What about the referendum? We vote.
Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag.
What about
JK Live. Is that it? All right. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk more.